Picture this, dads. It's April 2025 and the Wall Street is pulling off the greatest Bitcoin heist in history. Imagine a vault full of 42,000 Bitcoins, that's about 4 billion worth, snagged by a Wall Street titan like it's an ultimate Black Friday deal. Welcome back to Dad's Gone Crypto, where two dads unpack the wild world of crypto so you don't have to. I'm Sean, joined by my co-host Ryan. How's it going, Ryan?
Great. How you doing, Sean? So a heist, you say? Well, lay it on me. Cantor Fitzgerald, the iconic global financial institution, just teamed up with Tether and SoftBank to launch 21 Capital, starting with that $4 billion Bitcoin haul you were talking about there. Is this the moment that Bitcoin becomes the ultimate dad-proof investment, like a Craftsman tool set that never breaks?
Or that moment we can kick ourselves for not buying at $10,000. Well, buckle up, crypto dads, because we're diving into why Wall Street's stacking sats like a dad.
So, Sean, why is a Wall Street big shot like Cantor Fitzgerald suddenly stacking sacks like they're stocking the garage with power tools for the next 20 years?
It's simple, Ryan. Bitcoin is their secret weapon against the world gone nuts. Think about the inflation eating your paycheck like termites in the shed, currencies wobbling like your kid trying to ride a bike for the first time, and global chaos making basically your 401k feel like a bad bet on a rainy day. So Bitcoin is basically digital gold, capped at 21 million coins, so no government can crank the printing press and ruin the party. It's that grill that never rusts, the one investment that holds strong when everything else is falling apart.
That's a dad-sized shield right there. But Cantor's not out there alone, right? I mean, we've seen this before with MicroStrategy sitting on 538,200 Bitcoin right now, currently worth over $50 billion.
Exactly, Ryan. MicroStrategy lit the fuse, and now Cantor's 21 Capital is stealing their playbook. They're not just dipping their toes, they're cannonballing into the Bitcoin pool with Tether's $1.5 billion, SoftBank's $900 million, and Bitfinex with its $600 million. It's like they're building a crypto fortress, and every dad listening is wondering, what should I be doing? $4 billion is no pocket change. Why are they so sure Bitcoin is the answer? Sounds like they're betting the family minivan on it.
Right. And this all started with Michael Saylor, the ultimate Bitcoin daddy who turned MicroStrategy into the Bitcoin legend that it is now. So picture him in 2020 sitting in his office, staring at his company's cash reserves melting under inflation, like a dad watching his barbecue budget shrink because steaks cost more than a car payment now. He's thinking, my cash is dying in the bank. 2% interest isn't cutting it. So he makes a call that shocks Wall Street. Screw it. We're betting it on Bitcoin. Fast forward to 2025. MicroStrategy's got 538,200 Bitcoin right now, over $50 billion worth. It's like he traded a rusty old sedan for a fleet of Ferraris.
Like they said, Bitcoin daddy, like all the Bitcoins are his children.
Right.
I think there's going to be lots of t-shirts coming out. Well, that's some serious dad hustle, right? It's like, and I think it's like fixing that lawnmower with duct taping and turning it into a Formula One car. He's sitting on it with a couple of beers. So how did 21 Capital, started copying Michael Saylor's playbook? After all, he has been setting up these conferences and these ways for companies to kind of transition, but it has taken quite a bit of time. But finally, we're starting to see the fruits. Whether he's directly responsible for that, we don't know, but he was one of the first to get it started. So, people are starting to, well, when I say people, companies are starting to wake up to the fact that they have to diversify with this crazy world out there. So Saylor's trick was simple but bold, taking his company's cash, basically to issue debt and equity and to buy Bitcoin, because the way he saw it was that cash was basically worthless, because your $1 million 1 year doesn't have the same buying power the year after, because the true inflation is much, much higher. The unspoken inflation is much, much higher. So his company is actually weathering away, and over time, if he just stays complacent, his company will fold, because he's not improving, because the inflation is just the money print is just going brrr, and his cash reserves are going lower. So MicroStrategy issued billions in convertible bonds, basically loans to pay back with stock to stack sats. So their stock price basically soared as Bitcoin climbed the ranks, making investors and obviously very happy, and obviously Michael Saylor, a crypto rock star. So 21 Capital doing the same, planning a $350 million investment in convertible bonds and $200 million in private investment placements to buy Bitcoin. It's kind of like refinancing the house to buy the ultimate crypto grill that's made out of just pure digital gold.
I love that, Sean. They're stacking sats like a dad stacks firewood for winter. But we got to look at this. Isn't it a little bit risky? I mean, what if Bitcoin's price takes a dive and they're so heavily invested in it?
Oh, yeah, I think it is. It is a gamble, Ryan, but it's a calculated one. And, these guys do a lot of homework. And because they got a lot of investors in their company, they got to make sure that their bet is calculated. And if it goes south, their company will still be fine, because you can't be betting the house on Bitcoin. And if that fails, then everything comes down. So it's definitely a calculated one.
Yeah, absolutely. So who else is jumping in on this Bitcoin bandwagon, Sean? Is it just the cool kids like Cantor and MicroStrategy, or are there others?
I think we were the cool kids because we got in first, yes. The laggards, as they call them, in late adopters to the party. But the guys with the big Tom and the big wealth. So Ryan, like, it's full on crypto stampede at the moment, right? Picture GameStop. Remember that meme stock king back in early 2025? All they're fresh out of Reddit fueled roller coaster with investors chanting to the moon. It's kind of like a little league rally. The CEO says, why stop at stocks? Let's buy some Bitcoin. So get this, an old broken down video store, now a conglomerate buying Bitcoin. It's unreal.
Absolutely. And then there's Tesla. Elon Musk's running the show like a dad planning a cross-country RV trip. Back in 2021, Elon bought a bunch of Bitcoin and he was tweeting that it was his Mars money backup plan. And now in 2025, Tesla's holding 11,509 Bitcoin worth over $1 billion. It's like they're prepping for a galactic barbecue.
Oh, can't wait.
But Elon's not just tweeting memes. He's betting Bitcoin's the fuel for his sci-fi dreams. And don't forget, Marathon Digital and Riot Platforms, crypto miners who've turned their digital shovels into Bitcoin vaults. They're holding over 47,531 and 19,223 coins, respectively. It's like they're mining gold in their backyard. And this is like every dad at the hardware store grabbing the last power tool. Bloomberg says this trend's exploding. GameStop, Tesla, and even Rumble joined in Q1 2025. So why is everyone so hyped?
It's FOMO, right? And I think that roller coaster is only getting faster. And it's pure and simple. Bitcoin hit $103,000 in December 2024. And companies don't want to be that dad who missed the deal of the century. Plus, new accounting rules have now allowed them to be a bit more Bitcoin pro. I think there was a new appointed SEC, which is pro crypto. You've got a government in America that's pro crypto. All the guys that are supporting the structures, are pro crypto, which means that it doesn't mean it's a free for all or Wild West. It just means they want to, like the SEC guy said, we want to protect the users, but at the same time, we want to create an environment where businesses can thrive and people can make money. So, also having a Trump pro-crypto vibe, that is big, because if your government doesn't like something, they're going to find every way to squash you like a little bug.
Right. Yeah, it's what we've been dealing with for the last 4 years, and now we've got a pro crypto administration, like beyond pro crypto. So I think things are definitely heading in the right direction. But there's got to be a catch, right?
Well, companies like MicroStrategy are leveling up with about $4 billion in loans to buy Bitcoin. If the price tanks, let's say 30% in a month, like it did in 2022, they're stuck with debt and a shrinking crypto pile. So it's kind of like borrowing to buy a tricked out boat, but only to find out there's got lots of leaks.
Exactly. It's like when your kids begged you to buy those Pokemon cards because they'll be worth millions. You drop $200 thinking you're a genius, but half the time you're left with that shiny cardboard nobody wants. Sometimes Bitcoin's got that vibe, it's up, it's down. Sometimes it's gold, and sometimes it feels like the garage sale dud.
If you can see just over there where I'm pointing over there, those are 2 Pokemon boxes that cost me an arm and a kidney. And my son's like, please, daddy, please. It's an investment. I'm like, okay, let's start him to teach him how to invest. And then he comes to my desk, can we open it? I'm like, no, we can't open it. I said, open it when you're 21, which is 11 years from now. I'm like, you can open this in 11 years. And he says, oh, daddy, you got a point. I'm like, of course I do. Nailed it. Anyways, so Ryan, just another thing that we obviously need to chat about is that Tether is backing 21 Capital with $1.5 billion. Now, if you've been following Tether, which is USDT stablecoin, which is huge, right? But it's been under fire for years because it's this thing: do they have enough reserves to cover the current cash flow, right? Because it isn't one-to-one backed, right? That's always been it. If it's not, and something happens and we have a black swan event, that's when the house of cards comes down, right? So it's you have to maybe hedge yourself against that as well. And these guys going into it probably have some insurance to back that capital as well.
Oof, that's a dad-sized worry for sure. If Tether sneezes, then every crypto dad catches a cold, and 21 Capital's shiny new Bitcoin vault might take a hit. So why take the risk?
Well, I think that's what it is. There's massive upside. The grounds for prosperity are there. As Michael Saylor says, Bitcoin is it's a digital revolution that's going to change finance for the best, right? And when we start thinking that this could change the world, and you've got an environment that you can thrive in, potentially thrive in, you have to start putting some assets, in that direction. So it's kind of like risk versus reward. You can't be left out of the game. So dip your toe in, and as the momentum starts to push, you get more and more involved in it.
All right, enough of the doom and gloom, though. Let's make the bull case on why this makes sense. Think about it. If 10 more companies out there follow Cantor's lead, Bitcoin supply gets tighter than a dad's wallet at the arcade.
It's a very good analogy.
There's only 19.7 million coins in circulation out of a total of 21 million. So, it's mostly been mined already. There's very little coming back out. And the big players are gobbling up those 19.7 million as fast as they can. So I'm making a bold call, and I'm saying that Bitcoin breaks over $250,000 before the end of this year. That's my guess. And I know that's a dad-sized paycheck for anyone holding even a fraction of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, $250,000. That's a lot, but it's possible, as you start to squeeze the supply. Now, most governments can switch on a printing press. It's not backed by gold. All right, your currency is not backed by gold. So what is it backed by? Nothing. You just put it in a printer press and they put it out into the market. Inflation goes up, right? But with Bitcoin, it doesn't work like that. As people buy and hold, right, the supply shock happens. And I think one of the big banks announced yesterday that there is going to be a supply shock in the market for Bitcoin because there's such a demand for it, right? And also remember, these guys just can't come into the market and just buy, $5 billion worth of things. They have to slowly stagger in so they don't upset the price fluctuation. So now, if every company has that problem, then you're going to understand how the supply shock actually, gets tighter and tighter. So with Trump's pro-Bitcoin moves, and obviously with the strategic Bitcoin reserves and states starting to use Bitcoin as a state strategic reserve, the fire is starting to burn bright. There's a lot of paperwork that has to happen in the backgrounds, and let's get it going, let's push, let's go, come on, Bitcoin, go to the moon, because in the old season, if Bitcoin pushes high, it brings the whole market with it, right? So if you are in shitcoins, you want Bitcoin to go to the moon because your altcoins have the greater potential, all right, to do your multiple X's once Bitcoin goes. But in order to do that, regulations have to be in place, and there's a lot of things that needed to. And finally, now things are starting to go. So, with the spot Bitcoin ETF pulling in about just under $1 trillion, Wall Street's cash can make Bitcoin as legit as a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more companies, more ETFs, more adoption, it's a rocket ship, man. It really is. And again, we have to specify, this is not financial advice. This is just two guys talking them here, but I'll tell you what, it's in my imagination, Bitcoin is that rocket ship that's taking us all to Mars. So, think about it. Imagine every public company out there allocating just a tiny bit, maybe 1% of their cash to Bitcoin. That's hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in demand, and it's going to push the prices through the roof. And I see it happening sooner than later, quite honestly.
But Ryan, is Bitcoin becoming like a Wall Street monopoly money, as they call it? That what does the say? The saying goes, "Funny money." There we go. My dad always says, "This funny money. I can't touch it. I don't want it." Or would it kind of crash like that Beanie Baby collection? Let's get dads in on this. Let's start a YouTube poll. We're going to start one in our section at the bottom there. Do you think Bitcoin will hit $250,000 by 2026? Let's get those votes in, all right? And share your comments as well, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm voting yes, and let's see what all you guys think. So, all right, Sean, why don't we zoom out a little bit and, talk about what does this mean for Bitcoin long term? Is it still the people's money that we fell in love with, or is it becoming more of a corporate greed again, like our normal currencies have become?
Is it becoming a digital stock exchange? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, Ryan. Well, corporations are stacking sats. And states like Texas and Wyoming are jumping in. Texas loves its crypto miners, but Bitcoin could redefine global finance. Imagine a world where Bitcoin is as common as Costco's membership, used by companies to hedge bets and nations to dodge the dollar drama. Think about El Salvador, like it's already there. They pulled themselves out of a shithole, all right, by starting to introduce Bitcoin, which happens to pull their country out of chaos. And there's a lot of countries around the world that need something. They need to hedge something because, by borrowing money, they actually end up just becoming more in debt, and the policies of repaying that debt means these companies have favor over the country. So a way of getting out of that is to perhaps put a small portion of their country's wealth into it, all right, and back it, because if a country backs it, that's another country on the market that's pro crypto. So just to give you some stats on that, so El Salvador already is holding about 5,700 Bitcoins. And it might not sound like a lot, but it's a start, and if Bitcoin does what it needs to do, it will have good money in reserves to build its country. And Ryan, the question is that maybe you can answer is that, what about the governments? Won't they want to push their own digital currencies, to keep control?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them are. China's got its own digital yuan, and the EU's sniffing around. But I'll tell you what, Bitcoin's like a dad's old pickup truck. It's beat up, reliable, and it's not going anywhere. It's too big to ban now. So they can take their digital currencies and shove them up their ass for all I care.
Yeah, it's the scary part of controlling. They basically can erase you, right? They can stop you from transacting. And I think I did give it an example. I had an employee once, and she did some work out in China, and she just accidentally put one foot in the road right before that light turned green, where she was allowed to walk. As she took two more steps, money was deducted from her account, and she had a notice on her cell phone saying, "You've just violated it." So they scanned her. They've got access to her bank account. They took the money out of her account immediately. No going to no institution to pay your fine. They just took it out, all right, because they all it's crazy.
That
But
is
luckily,
scary shit.
luckily,
Scary.
Ryan, your president said we will not be doing shit like this, right?
Exactly.
And
Yep.
that's important because because that's the scary part of big conglomerates controlling people and erasing them, right? So
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
that's the scary part.
That's the direction our last administration was heading, and thankfully, this one has already declared that there will be no digital currencies. He even signed a executive order saying that we will not have a digital US dollar.
All right, Brian. So bottom line, are we bullish, bearish, or are we just going to chill with the cold one in the garage?
Well, I'm always bullish, quite honestly. But I mean, obviously, you got to be a little cautious too. Bitcoin's a dad-sized opportunity, like finding a vintage toolbox at a yard sale. If companies keep stacking sats and Trump's policies hold, we could see that 250K by 2026. But I don't know if you want to bet the whole minivan, right? So, you got to diversify. You got to keep some cash for the kids' braces, and maybe grab a slice of Bitcoin to go along with it, right?
Exactly, guys. And by all means, this is not financial advice at all, but it's just we bring this content to you to help open up your eyes to what's happening in the world. What are players doing? Because if the big guys are moving, the little guys follow, right? And, then the little guys, which is us, follow that trend. Sometimes people are too scared to start that whole journey, and they want big players to get in because then it creates a bit of, safety and security, or at least it appears so. So, if you want to front run them, maybe have a look into it. So yes, I do totally agree. The upside is potentially huge. So yes, there can be downside as well. So just manage your risk, and and just keep learning and keep listening to the podcasts, and stepping up your knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crypto dads and crypto fans, thank you for joining us for this Wall Street Bitcoin heist. If you love diving into the Cantor Fitzgerald $4 billion bet and our $250,000 Bitcoin call, smash that like button and subscribe for more Crypto Dads wisdom.
So drop your thoughts below. Is Bitcoin Wall Street's new monopoly money, or will it hit 250K by 2026? Don't forget to vote in our YouTube poll.
All right, guys, take care, and we'll chat to you guys soon. See you next week. Ciao.
See you guys. The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.